Welcome to the Inside Podcast Season 2. I'm your host Seth, and as always I'm joined by my co-host Mike, and today we're diving deep into the world of e-commerce optimization with a true expert in the field. Our guest today is Saul Cropman, founder of Alchemy Consultants and a specialist in customer-first conversion rate optimization for Shopify brands. Saul has made a name for himself helping e-commerce businesses transform their websites into high-converting revenue engines. His expertise span from everything from CRO and e-commerce SEO to comprehensive customer experience optimization. Using his customer-first CRO method, he's helped numerous Shopify brands and stores double their conversion rates within 90 days. Based in Brisbane, Queensland, Saul brings a practical, non-fluff approach to solving complex challenges that online retailers face today. From optimizing product pages to streamlining the checkout process, he's known for delivering measurable results that directly impact the bottom line. In today's episode, we'll explore proven strategies for turning website visitors into loyal customers and discuss how brands can stop wasting ad spend and start maximizing the conversion potential. So without further delay, please welcome Saul Cropman to the Inside Podcast. Welcome, Saul. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me. That was a phenomenal intro. Thank you.
Of course.
Is there anything we left out that you want to add?
No, that's kind of like, that's my whole spiel is like, stop spending money with Zuckerberg or stop giving him so much money when, you can actually get people onto your site and convert them rather than just getting, I call them window shoppers.
Got it.
I think
that's kind of my whole thesis.
Amazing.
We were talking offline, and we are big believers and lovers of conversion, or conversion optimization.
Yes.
And I think it's the often not the stepchild, but it's in some ways a stepchild, and it probably is the one approach or service that can have the biggest leverage in terms of changing people's results quickly. How did you find your way into conversion? What's your background?
Gosh, my background is I've done a bit of everything. I've done from agency web dev side to publishing. I started podcasting about 20 years ago as well, so kind of was in that space. And the thing that I really found when I became a dad was e-commerce, because it allowed me to work from home and kind of consult to various different companies. And I've done a whole lot of Amazon consulting, but I've also done a whole lot of Shopify work. So as you say, kind of getting stores converted from, I did a big commerce to Shopify migration recently, and just kind of making sure that the whole from the front end to the back end is really quite thorough. I've kind of found that I'm pretty good at project management as well in those areas. But what I love is conversion rate optimization, because I think, we were speaking about this before, like at the end of the day, you can spend millions and millions of dollars on ads, but they won't be profitable unless you are converting strong, making sure that the people that are coming to your site are getting the right message and they actually trust you. So again, as I said to you guys before, to me, conversion rate is partially a technical science, but it's also a bit of a psychology kind of approach where you want to understand the desires and the needs of the customer. And that, I don't know, as I'm getting older, I'm finding that more fascinating, just to see how people go through that buying process. And to be honest, I'm always surprised by the buying process. Whatever I think is generally the opposite of reality, I've come to realize that I'm well off the mark, but that means it's quite easy for me to go, okay, the opposite is probably true. And that's my new superpower when it comes to conversion rate optimization.
Amazing. What we like to do on this podcast is we like to go super into the practical side. We like to dig deep so we can give our audience actionable insights. Maybe you could give us a little bit of an overview of, you take on a new site, what are like the first few steps you take on to analyze the funnel and then identify where you need to make fixes and run experiments and then essentially optimize?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think the first place you would start is just Google Analytics. At the end of the day, everyone's got that installed and they've got years and years of data. So pop into Google Analytics and have a look where the kind of e-commerce funnel is breaking down. So it's one of the tabs in Google Analytics. And you can see, for example, if, of course, most people will sort of get lost on the product page, but you can see where they're getting lost on the product page, and how many people. So that's generally what I start off doing is I start from the bottom of the funnel and I work my way up. The easiest wins are on the product page or on the checkout page. So I'll use Google Analytics, and then I'll also use a mixture of heat mapping tools. So I like to use Microsoft Clarity because it's free. Install that for a week or two, and it's also got AI built in. It's got ChatGPT built in, so it's awesome. It literally just tells you like. I'm not that smart. I'm just good at using Microsoft Clarity or their AI recommendations to. I'm giving away all of the magic. I'm telling you how the sausage is made. But you can literally go in and see, and you'll find that it's generally the same trends over and over again. People are getting frustrated because they're trying to click on something that they can't click on, and that's generally where you find your hypotheses. So between the Google Analytics funnel as well as sort of watching the heat maps, you'll see where the problems are, and you can start doing some tests. The other thing that I like to do, which most people don't do, and I think this is very important and extremely underrated, is actually talking to customers. So I like to use post-purchase survey software. So there's, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's KNO Commerce, and there's also Okendo, which have these post-purchase surveys. And you can try actually find out why people are buying things. So the perfect example is I used to work for a furniture company, and we used to think that, oh, wow, only men are buying from our store. And no, it just turned out that women were buying it with their husband's credit cards, so they weren't, we were assuming that we had to have this like masculine style of furniture, but that was completely wrong. So you can very easily find out from actually speaking to customers, and you don't have to do that with a piece of software. You can also just send people emails. So, using your Klaviyo or whatever email service provider, segment your top 1% and just send them an email saying, hey, you're our VIPs. What do you love about our store? What do you dislike? Would you go somewhere else? And just try to understand what has made them want to actually buy this product and why. So I think that's extremely powerful. And then once you have all that data and you have all that information, you can go in and you can start making changes to the Shopify theme. I use a great piece of software called Visually, which is a dedicated CRO tool. It's Visual LY. And then what that does is it's completely drag and drop. So you can just go into the Shopify theme. You can update pieces, move things around, add icons and the likes, and sit back and hopefully watch the dollars roll in, dollars or the rands roll in. And the one thing I want to just say on top of that, so I mean, giving you the process, is that you're not always going to magically create extra revenue overnight. Sometimes you will fail in your experiments, and that's okay, because you will always learn something from those experiments.
And just a question. You spoke about like post-purchase surveys and interactions. Have you ever tried any, I'd say, lost purchase surveys and interactions? We've had some experience with some guys actually calling their cart abandoners rather than emailing and actually seeing what happened. Why did you purchase? Have you done anything like that?
Definitely. I think there's two almost levels of speaking to customers. So I would call the first level trying to understand what motivated people to buy the product, because you can also then talk their language in descriptions and ads for that matter. But then you're 100% right. Is the cart abandoners and say, we'll give you a discount. Here's a coupon. Just give us your opinion on what stopped you from actually purchasing. And that's very, very powerful. And it's frustrating because it's such an underrated tactic where people just don't bother talking to their customers. They're almost afraid to talk to them.
Got it. Makes no sense. And just please maybe speak about baselines, just so the people listening or watching can know, are they doing well, are they doing badly, and how far they are from one of those. I guess the two benchmarks we typically look at are general conversion rate, so user conversion rate, and then cart to purchase drop off rate. What do you see out there? What's good for Shopify or for e-commerce?
It's one of those how long is a piece of string kind of conversations, and that's purely because a $400 $100 product at a 1% conversion rate might be better or more profitable than a $40 product at a 4% conversion rate. I think if you're getting under 1% conversion, there is something very wrong with your site. I think that should be the absolute benchmark. I think most people probably only going to make profits on 2% and above. So I think that's something that you need to be aiming towards. If you think about, say, 30% of your revenue going to the cost of goods, and then you're going to have another, say, 12 to 15% going to the Zuckerberg Foundation, you've got to convert pretty high. Otherwise, you're going to have challenges. So I think that should be a benchmark for every business. I would say that though, that it's across not just your ads, for example, it's across your email, it's across all the different parts of your business, rather than just that should be your baseline as a Shopify metric, rather than just a particular channel.
Yeah, it's so interesting how different markets are so different. So what we've seen is typically advanced e-commerce or online markets. So I would say Australia is definitely one of those. Australia, UK, US, 2% would say the norm. South Africa, I would say 1% is probably even above average. We've seen so many stores, probably the
Interesting.
average 4.75%. We like what we see here.
Wow, that's interesting.
And then I think, and how do you separate whose fault it is? And I'll tell you what I mean by that is that our view in conversion, that there's two culprits or two opportunities, I guess. One is the site and everything that goes with it, the UX and that, and the second thing is obviously the traffic. You kind of touched on it, looking at email, what's the conversion rate, email versus organic, and they can be vastly different. How do you point blame? Is it the site's problem or the traffic's problem?
It's like that Spider-Man meme where the two different Spider-Mans are pointing at each other. That's kind of where we end up in these situations. Everyone, the agency that does your paid ads says that it's the website, and the website says it's the paid media agency. I think you've got to break down your traffic into different sources. So traffic is not just this one big blob of people. There's, for example, you'll have paid media traffic, you'll have your own traffic in terms of SEO and email and things like that. And those will all have different conversion rates. So it's quite easy to work out where the problem is. If, for example, your direct traffic will always be the highest converting because people are actually typing in your website and coming. And I use that as like the benchmark to say, okay, well, if we're getting 2% of conversion on direct and we're getting 0.75 on paid media, it's definitely paid media's fault. That's problematic. If we're getting SEO traffic at, say, 1.5, closer then towards the direct traffic, you can very quickly pinpoint where the problems are coming from.
And maybe so let's just go back one step, and then we'll ask you some cool hacks that you like and some of the tools you enjoy. So as you mentioned, you start with almost like a quantitative analysis through GA4 or through some analytics. Then you look at a more qualitative look through Clarity, or we also move to Clarity. We're on Hotjar, and then like, what's the point? And,
it's free. It's crazy.
It's free and
then post that, then there's the testing phase. So through visually, I think was it visually? Right.
Yeah, I use visually. Yeah.
What other? I know you're. If anyone hasn't followed Saul on LinkedIn, you definitely should. If there's a tool out there that you don't know, you will be aware of it after following Saul for a week or so. So that would you say that's your tech stack? Is there anything like else that I've missed in that process?
Well, I like that the post-purchase surveys software as well. There's a lot of merchants in Australia that use Okendo because they use that for their reviews. Yes. But there's, I think it's called KnoCommerce or KNO. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. That does that, and it sort of embeds it into your Shopify checkout, which is quite useful. So that's probably my, it's called Stack. But I think we were talking earlier as well about kind of help desk software and live chat and things like that. I think that's an important part of this equation as well. There's definitely value in taking some of the reviews and some of the help desk information, exporting that, putting it into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever you use, DeepSeek, and just saying like, what are the main pain points that the customer is experiencing in these reviews. So I'm busy doing an audit for a plus size woman's fashion brand, and based on the reviews that I've exported, the number one issue is returns. It's a market who's unsure of whether the clothes will fit them. The brand is more interested in trend, when their customers are actually less interested in trend and more interested in the convenience and the comfort of trying on the clothes at home and then sending them back. So only way we could have worked that out is by going through their reviews and going through their help desk. So that's a great way of doing it without having to wait the 2-3 weeks of, say, for example, Clarity collecting data.
Got it. Then, besides
Thank goodness we have AI.
Yeah. But we'll get to AI in a second. But besides,
Sure.
I guess those items, like you analyze a lot of sites,
Yeah.
and I think predominantly Shopify sites.
Hmm.
What do you think like are the three coolest like plugins or add-ons or tools that people could be using that they most likely don't know about, and what's out there?
There's an absolutely amazing piece of software, a Shopify app. It's called Sections.store, and it's free to install. And what it does is it has almost these pre-built sections. So, for example, I always say, I've got almost the sort of benchmark standards that I like to use, and that's to put what I call trust icons below the add to cart. So that's, free shipping, free returns, that sort of thing. That'll just have that built into Sections.store. So you just go in and it's like, it'll be $13 US for, different sections. And you essentially, you get to keep that. There's no subscription or anything like that. So it's probably the best kind of value for money hack that you can get. It's really, really good. And I use that a lot as a way to kind of very quickly test. And the code is good. Like it's as good as getting a designer or developer to actually do it. So, that's kind of a nice little life hack there.
And would you go for that rather? I know trust factors.
For me, like I'm busy creating a almost standard of what a Shopify store should have. So, for example, like those trust icons below, as seen in. So, if people have if you've been seen on TikTok or in a magazine or a newspaper or a blog article or things like that,
Yes.
I'm busy creating a trust. Let's call it check box or checklist rather, which I'm going to be releasing soon. A trust Bible. There we go. Exactly.
Yeah,
there we
go.
Mike, you should be in marketing. You should totally be in marketing. There you go. The trust Torah, I think, is technically our thing.
I like that.
There we go. So I find that there's almost like some benchmarks that you have to do, and that's showing real people using the products. I think that's very important. But those aren't necessarily tools per se. I think for me, it's a case of I use Visually because it's great. You can just drag and drop and it does most of the work for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So would you
just
use
sections really allows you to not know anything about code, not to need to know anything about development, and it essentially has pre-built type of cool templates that have already been stress tested for sales, and they have like some cool social security.
Correct. And not only that, they do have some cool like comparison areas and scrollers and things like that. So it creates a section in your Shopify templates, and you can just drag and drop in the editor, which is really valuable.
And I'm just curious, are you able to then run A/B tests within it, or like with your Visually software, we use VWO, like we would go and test those trust factors to see which ones are most effective. Is that then part of the process that you'd go and you test it before, and then I'm assuming Sections is now you're taking the role of the end web developer and you're actually going and implementing those changes. Is that the process, or am I?
Sort of. So I sometimes when you're inside, you can't see that, you can't always explain it pretty well, but you make a very good point. Like, this is not about just randomly changing. You have to test everything. So what you would do is you'd create two different versions of your Shopify theme, and you would compare the two together using Visually. I like VWO because it's useful for, say, for example, Magento and Salesforce Commerce Cloud sites. Visually is very good. There's IntelliGems. There's also Shoplift, which all three of those are built natively for Shopify. And what they do is they take two different Shopify themes and they split the traffic to them. so that you get a full, proper, statistically relevant A/B test, which one's right.
Got it. And how much do you, sorry, I know we've kind of meandered off tools and that, but how much importance do you place on speed for conversion? And how do you fix it? How do you freaking fix speed?
Oh man, $1 million question. I think look, the number one thing I see is still to this day, it's just bad images, and that's less of an issue on Shopify, thankfully, because they seem to have added some magic that kind of adjusts the images depending on what size is required on the device. For me, the biggest importance thing here is really just making sure that your code is good. The thing with Shopify, the 90% of the issues are JavaScript issues. So badly implemented libraries, or not doing things like minifying your libraries and stuff like that. But also, it's one of those things where it's becoming less and less of an issue. Like, we're all getting faster connections. We're all on mobile devices, which are 4G and 5G enabled. It's important to say, for example, get let's call it 40 out of 100. If you can get a 40 out of 100 on your Google PageSpeed Insights, I think on Shopify you're doing great. And I do a lot of these audits, and I look at a lot of different sites. Some of them have 27 apps installed. Some of them have a 30 PageSpeed Insight score. It's becoming less and less of a concern, and these are multi-million-dollar stores. So 5 years ago, very important, and obviously not something you should take your eye off the ball. But as I say, we're getting faster and faster connections. It's not going to be an issue in 5 years' time, I think.
You guys heard it here first. If you got 40 out of 100, you're doing well. We're gonna bookmark that little statement.
Unfortunately, Mike, Shopify is not the most efficient piece of software when it comes to Google PageSpeed Insights, and that makes SEO harder. But at the end of the day, I've seen very fast sites, very fast loading sites with 40, and at the end of the day, you can tell as a user whether it's fast or slow.
Yeah,
makes sense. And then how do you find, now that we've just touched on mobile a little bit, conversion rates between mobile and desktop? I see a lot more people, just on average, when I've been looking at data, that a lot more guys convert on a desktop, but then traffic's also a lot lower on a desktop. How do you find that relationship works? And then how do you actually almost tell them, or tell the agency that's working on it, or the guy that's running the PPC ads, hey, you actually need to go a bit heavier, use my mobile network, and then go and run some remarketing ads to target them on a desktop?
Well, look, I think you should be running remarketing ads regardless. Yeah. I think that's a very just good hygiene to run remarketing on meta platforms. Unfortunately, mobile is just kind of where it's at. People browse more. They're sitting on the couch. So it's a lower intent customer. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I'm seeing upwards of 80% using mobile. So that's for me is the primary place to optimize. Desktop seems almost less intolerant to speed and to glitches and things like that. They're there for a purpose. And what did you say? They're sort of, you use the term forgotten stepchild or unloved stepchild. That desktop is ironically the unloved stepchild of e-commerce these days. Mobile is kind of where it's at, and I think you just need to go the 80-20 route and focus on mobile.
Awesome. So no podcast in any industry would be complete without us talking a little bit about AI. What are your thoughts on AI in general, particularly in the realm of conversion? What's exciting for you? What's not exciting for you? Let's have your take.
I am very interested in AI, as I think anyone in our space is. And to be honest, I didn't see any benefit until very recently. I saw the most incredible AI example. It's for a fitness apparel store. And what they did was they put a virtual coach underneath the add to cart button and also on the homepage as the sort of site chat. And what it does is it tells you about the products and it tells you what it can be used for. If if you want to buy a pair of shorts, or they sell, things like gym equipment as well. So it's actually created a almost virtual sales consultant, a virtual store consultant. So I don't like to speak to the people in stores, but a lot of people do, and they use them as advice and a way to get it. I think finally we're having a point where AI can replace that person. It's never going to be perfect, and I think what made it really good with that example is they said it was a virtual coach, so it wasn't like they were trying to hide a real person behind AI. I truly believe that AI is very valuable to help with situations rather than replace things. So during the day they have their customer service rep who responds, and during the afternoons and evenings they have the AI. And I think that's very valuable. They can process refunds, they can change addresses, they can tell you about the products. I am also really fascinated. I don't know if you guys have seen the ChatGPT operator, which will do some of the shopping for you potentially. That's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be a case of going and saying, "Hey, I need a new pair of pants or whatever the case is. This is my size. I normally buy from Lululemon or whatever the case is. Go and get from there. Go buy from them or find something that's equivalent." So that's going to change commerce in the sense that people will have to almost cater for AI operators, which I actually don't even know how we're gonna change things in that regard. But it should be really interesting to see how these kind of virtual assistants will actually do the work for us. I definitely think with AI, there's also value for things like product descriptions. I think it's a very underlooked part of a website. You can obviously train a AI to sort of create a template, and you can start filling out the product descriptions. It's often a lot better than a real copywriter because it can be templatized and it can actually have the raw product information put into it. And I think that's very valuable.
Yeah. I think going forward, just on some of those points, like actually converting your website so it's more accessible for an operator or a bot to actually work through your website. I think moving forward, like for someone to future-proof their site, it's like almost like being on top of what AI can do and how it's got access to your site. I know for like SEO, so you can actually be more relevant. It's like installing certain crawlers on the site and making sure that it's, my technical knowledge from SEO is a little bit weak, but it's like installing robots, not what's it?
Yeah.
Robots. Yeah, a certain set of robots code that ensures that, for example, that ChatGPT's online version can actually go and crawl your site and things like that.
Well, it's great because you've got to have that. I mean, even I don't know about you guys, but I've been converted to the Google bots or Gemini like insights that it comes back with before you even go to a site. I don't even look anymore. It's terrible. Like I just take whatever it says as the gospel, and we've got to, as sites, be very aware of that change coming soon.
Just you mentioned like almost the AI agent, the sales agent, not the ChatGPT agent. I've used the sales agents, I think already, and I'll tell you when it first weighed on me. This year I'm having a terrible year in fantasy football, and I'm blaming AI helpers on this. That they're just so much better at everything, and that's my excuse. But I've seen this even for sales, the sales ability. That I think AI agents are already at the stage that they're better than any human. One, because they have all the product knowledge, which humans don't.
Yeah.
So you spoke about like after hours versus on hours. I think from tomorrow, stores should actually replace their, unfortunately, and let them do something else. Let them do something better, but should replace their humans with AI agents because they have all the knowledge.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think one thing, and you kind of touched on it with the gym example, that people are so much more open with robots or AI. People are guarded when it comes to speaking to a human. Like, they're salesy, so like, they maybe have a ulterior motive. When they speak to AI, they go wild. They're like, "This is crap. This product's too expensive."
Yeah.
They're like, they won't say that to a human. So you just get a much honest and more raw conversation. So yeah, I don't know. I'm of view that guys should, at least from the AI sales agent and bot point of view, get rid of your human immediately. It's already there. It's time's come.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I think.
Oh,
Sorry, Seth, you're going to say?
I was going to say that I think AI is replacing mediocre in every way and form. It's replacing mediocre coders. It's replacing mediocre marketers. It's replacing mediocre sales people. And I think where everyone then needs to step in is the above mediocre. You need your sales rep that used to be handling your chatbot to now go and mediate what's actually going on behind the scenes with the chatbot if it gets something wrong. Instead of catering to everyone, catering to those select few that the chatbot actually can't facilitate. And I think that's the real switch now.
I think you're 100% right, and I think also it's almost like it could augment. So to Mike, to your point of getting rid of your whole support team, have one support person who is your second level support. An AI could do probably 90% of what you require, and you have that other person for the 10%. And I genuinely feel sorry for young people coming into the workforce now, because a lot of them are going to be not given an opportunity because of AI. It's going to be very interesting and very scary to see what happens.
Sure.
As I get older, I seem to be getting more scared of change. So I guess maybe I'm just at that age where these things are a little bit intimidating.
No, and the point is that just lastly on chatbots, I think people have been tainted and are still fearsome of talking to a chatbot in the last year before AI. Always came to a point when there was an automated chatbot. It was like, there's 3 buttons. You can click one of these buttons. As soon as you asked a question that wasn't like a pre-programmed keyword, it would say, I don't understand. Would you like
Correct.
to speak to him? Like the handoff was so early.
Yes.
And for anything. And I think, Seth, to your point, there's never been a not mediocre chat assistant as a human. Like, there's not the best salesperson in the world who to chat to someone. Like, that's why AI is always better. But yeah, I think it is just some things that it's going to be better immediately, and I think that's it. Anyway, so give us the magic. Now I think most of the e-commerce stores that do listen to this are Shopify, and even the guys that aren't. But unfortunately, they don't have access. They maybe should have access, but they don't have access tomorrow to Saul. Now, if you're going to give them 3 tips or 3 pieces of advice that they can do tomorrow to help improve their conversion rates, without knowing what's in your brain, they can just go to their site and take kind of some of your experience and some of your knowledge and apply that to their stores tomorrow. What would you tell them? Give them some magic.
I would tell them to, the magic is actually the simplest answer, in that I want you to go to your mom or your dad who are older than you and are less technically savvy than you, and I want you to put them in front of your websites, and I want you to watch them and say to them, I want you to go buy whatever product that you want them to buy, and watch where they struggle. Because conversion optimization is all about taking away the struggle. It's about increasing trust, and it's about taking the struggle away. If you can find a random person on the internet or a random person on the street, buy them coffee, buy them lunch, and give them your phone and say, I want you to go on this website and I want you to buy a product, and see where they struggle. You can do a screen recording if you want to. See where they struggle. It's the cheapest, easiest way to do conversion optimization, because people generally tend to struggle on the same places. And when you're inside the website every single day, you know exactly where everything is. You know exactly how it works. It is so hard to see the roadblocks, and it's so hard to see how people are struggling. You just think everything's magical because it's your site and you're proud of it, and things like that. So install Microsoft Clarity, go into it, use its AI recommendations, but as well as that, just go speak to someone, especially someone who is not as tech savvy as yourselves. We as e-commerce people, we get obsessed with the product, and we love our products, and we think it's the best product in the world. But even if the best product in the world is what you have, if people can't buy it because there's, say, for example, not enough reviews, or, an example I had was that we didn't realize that the 1-star reviews were going to the top rather than the 5-star reviews on the site. A simple thing like that, by getting a customer or potential customer to actually show you that, bam, it's night and day.
Amazing. The Mon test.
Yeah.
I like
In that case, though, like with the reviews, like we didn't have reviews, and then we got reviews, and it was, for some reason, it was showing the first 1-star reviews, conversion literally doubled from 0.75 to 1.5% in overnight. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like that.
And I think maybe as a leaving point, we can end it off on that note. I think that's where the magic of conversion is. That there's no other action one can take online, whether you run Facebook ads, Google ads, and anything there is, that can have the impact that conversion can have as quickly. You can go from literally double your revenue overnight if you can figure out that one challenge.
Yeah, there's that one nugget, and the difference is like every year or every quarter, whatever the case is, your Facebook ads will get more expensive, your Google ads will get more expensive. There's always more competition. There's limited space to actually advertise. But at the end of the day, if you are keeping people on your site and you're doubling your conversion rate or even increasing it by 50%, you're automatically making more money with the exact same ad spend. And I think that's probably what I'd love to leave you guys on, is that you're making more money without spending more money. And that's for me is golden.
All right, guys, thanks the great Saul for those nuggets. I think if you want to stop spending more money on traffic and start getting more revenue, Saul's definitely a guy to follow, a guy to use, a guy to hire, all those things. Look out for his future, what do we call it? Your Trust Torah coming out soon. And we'll drop all his links below where you can find him online. Thanks, Mr.
Beautiful, gents. Thank you so much.